Lake Powell is disappearing due to what scientists believe is global warming and an increasing human population. Lake Powell was once 186 miles long. Now 42% of that is completely gone. This lake is found in Glen Canyon. This lake is the source of the Colorado River. It is very important. Civilization throughout America depend on the lake and river. Their river runs through many states, for example, California, Utah, and Arizona. Almost one half of this resource is gone. Human population and their demand for water is growing. This leads to less water in the lake. Global warming isn't helping this lake either. Powell is drying up faster than ever. States that have long droughts don't have as much of a resource. Take shorter showers. Don't throw away any unused water. Drink only what we need. There are all ways we can conserve our precious water. We only have a little of it, so use it wisely. Most people like to go fishing, boating, surfing, stuff like that. What will happen when our dirty boats and boards pollute limited amount of water? We should use water for our needs instead of wants. Is wakeboarding more important than life? Don't sell firewood by a forest, or else people will think you stole their oxygen. Nor fish beside a lake, because the same thing applies. People will think you stole their resource from that lake. Our resources were lakepowell.org, quotes.dictionary.com, and earthobservatory.com.
Lake Mead, gone in 2021. Water scarcity is a global concern, and it is not just an environmental problem. It is a problem for animals as well as humans in their daily life. If Lake Mead runs dry, then 22 million people will not have enough water for survival. It is very important that we find a solution to this problem because the population would decrease greatly. The problem is that Lake Mead has a 50% chance of running dry by 2021. Lake Mead once reached the ocean, but it never will again. Some effects of Lake Mead running dry is that many animals will lose their home, including the striped bass, the largemouth bass, the channel catfish, and the bluegill. 22 million people will lose the water supply that they need. Some small-term solutions for fixing the problem include saving up water. You can just do simple things like turning off the sink when brushing your teeth. And also, don't use water that you don't need. Limit your time in the shower and help in any way possible. If we are going to solve this problem, everyone needs to help. You can have the utilities companies put a limit to each household's water use. Our conclusion is that Lake Mead is extremely important to save because it supports 22 million people and many animals. Sources: thewaterproject.org, water.org. And the credits go to recorder, Allie Ruffin, speaker, Ginger Evans, paper slides, Gabby Hernandez.
Sinkholes in Florida. Background information. Sinkholes are one of the common features of Florida's landscape. The entire state of Florida sits on top of several thousand feet of limestone. Sinkholes form in the karst terrain from the collapse of surface sediments into ground voids. Importance. Sinkholes are important to know about because it can cause a life or death situation. It will also affect our generation because property values will go up, people will be killed, and it will affect neighborhoods. Introduce subtopic. People are dying from the sinkholes because people are using up all the groundwater. Some effects are
That's holes?
holes in the ground. Buses, houses, humans, animals, etc. are falling into these holes. Recommendation number 1. A recommendation is to stop using as much groundwater. Another recommendation is trying to reduce all of the water you use. Recommendation number 2. Also, you can get people to move homes or go out of town while there are sinkholes. Another is everyone in the community can volunteer to help this situation. Our quote is, "The probability of anyone having a sinkhole is low, but the problem is that everyone is paying for it." And these are our websites. Micaiah, Annie, and Abby.
Fertile pollution. Too much of anything is a bad thing.
Facts. 2.5% of the world's water is fresh water. 750 million people lack access to the clean water. 0.0159% of water is easily accessible fresh surface water. Water supplies are decreasing as human population is increasing exponentially. The decreasing size of Lake Chad is an example of water scarcity. Importance.
Excessive use of fertilizer cause high levels of nitrates that lead to algae blooms that cause a dead zone of unusable water. With the current push for biofuels, our generation will continue to kill our freshwater and eventually our oceans.
What's the problem? 1.5 million metric tons of nitrogen and phosphorus are carried by the Mississippi River into the Gulf of Mexico every year. Possible effects. In 7 years, the amount of nitrogen and phosphate pollution will decrease 34%. The Mississippi Delta dead zone is the size of New Jersey. The more corn that is grown for cows and biofuel, the bigger our problem.
Recommendation 1. What can we do now? We need to stop eating red meat that requires corn as a livestock feed. We need to write to our legislators, force them to use less fertilizer. We need to educate farmers to reduce the use of nitrogen and phosphorus. We need to use electric hybrid cars, not biofuel cars.
Recommendation 2. What is a long-term solution? Getting the state legislators to pass a bill limiting the amount of fertilizer runoff. Educating U.S. citizens to reduce the amount of red meat. Consumption for a healthier heart diet that will lead to a reduction of corn. Scientists can develop more effective fertilizers and irrigation systems to help farmers reduce use and runoff. Scientists can also develop alternative fuels that replace biofuels.
As farmers, scientists, legislators, and consumers, anything is possible and nothing is improbable. Together, we can save our water. By Ethan Brewer and Zachary Rogers.
So our group decided to do the topic about water irrigation and how we don't pay attention to how much water we use. What are some basic facts that people should know about water scarcity? 1 in 9 people don't have access to safe and clean water. Nearly 1 out of every 5 deaths under the age of 5 worldwide is due to water-related diseases. Water, water, water. Going down the drain? See, we're wasting too much water and most of it is unnecessary. So we need to pay attention to how much water goes to gardening and life support. For example, we leave the hose on or the faucet on, and it could be on purpose, like watering flowers. How don't we get the flowers? I love flowers, but we don't need that many. What is the problem and what could it lead to? The problem is that we use too much water for unnecessary reasons. The effects could be to losing lots of water sources. Water type. How to address the problem? Understand the problem and try to reduce water usage. We could get more people to understand what's going on. If people understood, they would want to help out. Then we could look for ways to reduce water usage in agriculture, such as precise use of irrigation by using irrigation in certain areas. Scheduling times to irrigate. Long-term solution. Some long-term solutions are to use alternate methods to irrigation, such as rainwater harvesting. Also, growing crops that we need less water, that we use less water, could help. Final thoughts. Globally, we use 70% of our water sources. For agriculture and irrigation, resources, thewaterproject.org, wwf.panda.org, by Hannah, Chloe, and Lexi. Thanks for watching.
Water scarcity in sub-Saharan Africa. Water is a resource people need to live. People here in sub-Saharan Africa have a harder time than we do to get water. Let's find out more.
These are some facts about water scarcity. There are many illnesses that can be caused from drinking dirty water. More than 358 million people are without water in Africa. Only 9 million people are without water in all of North America. Communities' futures can be destroyed with time lost getting water. And finally, more than 840,000 people die each year from a water-related disease.
Don't wait.
The importance of water scarcity is people without access to clean water will probably die. Our generation will be affected because over time, water is slowly going away.
Statistics and causes and effects. Africa has a problem most of us don't. Clean water. People die each year from water diseases and not enough clean water. A water disease that could be stopped kills a child every 15 seconds. Wow. We can save a lot of water that we don't need to waste, like leaving the sink on while brushing your teeth, or instead of using a hose to get leaves off your driveway, then use a rake. We could build clean water wells in Africa for them. What we can do to help for a long time, we could build a water purifier in their rivers so there can be clean water that everyone can visit. Even though Africa doesn't have the cleanest water, they still live on the websites we used are in gray and our names are in blue. Hope you learned something.
Riley out.
Avery out.
Jack out.